The first time I died, gym locker number 8 belonged to someone else. That was what the Academy's record said. Not that I had used it for 3 years. Not that my initials were scratched beneath the bottom hinge. Not that Coach Lena Arkwright ordered me to surrender it 10 minutes before national team trials. The official locker assignment showed her daughter, Celia Arkwright, as the registered holder. Inside, investigators found banned stimulants, syringes, and a handwritten dosage schedule bearing my signature. The Academy said I had hidden the drugs in Celia's locker to sabotage her. Celia still made the team. I was expelled. 6 months later, during a desperate attempt to prove the supplements were planted, I collapsed in a 24-hour fitness center after someone replaced my electrolyte drink with concentrated clenbuterol. My heart stopped on the rubber floor beneath a television, showing Celia win gold. When I opened my eyes again, the locker key was still warm in my palm. The clock above the changing room entrance read 6:08 a.m. Rain hammered the skylights of Calder Peak High Performance Center.
Trial day.
Locker number 8 stood in front of me.
Mine.
Coach Lena Arkwright stood beside it with one hand extended. Give up your spot, Mara. My lungs forgot how to work. She looked exactly as I remembered.
Tall.
Silver blonde hair cut sharply at the jaw. National coaching jacket zipped to the throat. A voice calm enough to make every demand sound like an administrative correction. Behind her, rows of elite gymnasts changed into training gear. Chalk dust floated above benches. Grip tape snapped. Metal locker doors clanged. No one knew that by noon, one of us would be accused of doping and another would be celebrated for surviving the scandal. In my first life, I thought Lena wanted the locker because Celia preferred the corner position near the physiotherapy room. I handed over my key. She smiled. 3 hours later, the lock was replaced. By evening, the contents destroyed my life. This time, I closed my fingers around the key.
No.
Lena blinked. Not because I spoke loudly. Because I did not apologize. Locker 8 is being reassigned. My name is on the board. The board has not updated. Then updated after the trials. Her expression remained controlled. Celia needs this row. Why? It is nearest the recovery suite. There are 7 other lockers in the row. Give me the key.
No.
The word settled between us. Several athletes looked over. Celia stood near the mirrors in a white warm-up jacket, pretending to stretch her shoulders. She had always been good at appearing uninvolved while her mother moved the world around her. Lena lowered her voice. Mara, do not make selection morning difficult. I'm not moving. Locker position is not worth losing focus. Then Celia should use another one. Celia turned. Her smile was gentle. It's fine, Mum.
It was not fine.
I knew the sequence. Celia would sound reasonable. Lena would call me emotional. The other gymnasts would wish I had simply moved. Then the records would change. I inserted my key into number 8. The old brass lock turned smoothly. A green mechanical tab appeared inside the keyway. Locker occupied. The Calder Peak lockers were older than the center's digital access system. Each had a mechanical seal used during anti-doping periods. Once an athlete marked a locker occupied, opening it with a master key triggered an inspection log. I had forgotten that. In the first life, I surrendered my key before activating the seal. This time, the locker knew I remained. Lena saw the green tab. Her face tightened. Deactivate it.
No.
You have no controlled materials inside. I have my competition kit. That does not require an anti-tamper seal. The seal is available to every athlete. Not today. Why not today? Her hand dropped. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Celia walked toward us. She wore her performance smile. Mara, this is silly. Then choose locker 7. I was assigned 8. When? Last night. My assignment still shows 8. Lena produced a laminated roster. Beside my name was locker 14. Beside Celia's was locker 8. The ink looked fresh. In my first life, that sheet convinced everyone the locker had never been mine. This time, I took out my phone. The athlete portal still showed Mara Vale, locker 8. I photographed both. 2 records. A mismatch. Lena reached for my phone. I stepped back. Delete that. Why? The roster contains private information. It contains my name. It contains everyone's. I'll crop it. Her voice cracked. Hard. Give up the spot. The changing room went quiet. Celia's smile disappeared. Lena realized she had lost control of her tone. She pulled a black master key from her pocket. If you refuse to cooperate, I will open it myself. Then the inspection log will record you. I am authorized. Good. I moved aside. She inserted the master key. The lock did not turn. She pushed harder. The green tab remained. The metal inside clicked once. Then jammed. Lena twisted. The key stopped halfway. She pulled. It would not come out. The lock had trapped the master key. A small red flag slid from the side of the locker door. Unauthorized override. Witness required. Every athlete in the room saw it. Lena stared at the red flag as if it had spoken. Celia stepped closer.
Mum.
Lena tried again. The key remained stuck. The lock had jammed around her authority. A facility officer entered after the door alarm sounded. His name was Tomas Reed, former military police, now head of athlete security. In my first life, he testified that Locker 8 belonged to Celia at the time of discovery. Now, he saw Lena's master key trapped inside, while my athlete key remained in my hand. What happened? He asked. Lena straightened. Mechanical fault. I held up the portal assignment. She tried to reassign my locker and override the seal. Tomas examined the red flag. This mechanism only jams after force rotation against an active athlete seal. Lena said, I am the National Program Director. That does not bypass witness protocol. Celia folded her arms. We're going to miss warm-up. Tomas looked at the clock. Then use another locker. A pattern interruption, so small, it almost made me laugh. In my first life, everyone bent around Celia's schedule. This time, one security officer treated a locker as a locker. Lena did not.
No, she said.
8 must be open before trials. Tomas looked at her carefully. Why? Her answer came too quickly. Medical access. What medical access? Celia's recovery medication. Celia turned toward her mother. My medication is in my bag. The room changed. Lena had created a reason her daughter did not know. Tomas noticed. So did I. He set a body camera on the bench. We open under controlled inspection. Lena's right hand trembled. That was when I knew the locker already contained something she needed removed. Not later. Not after trials.
Now.
My first life had begun, with the drugs discovered in the evening. The planting had happened before I surrendered the spot. The locker was already loaded. The lock technician arrived with a narrow case. She photographed the red flag. Photographed Lena's trapped master key. Photographed my athlete key. Asked every person to remain visible. The trials coordinator complained. Tomas refused to rush. The technician removed the hinges rather than forcing the lock. The door lifted away from the frame. Inside lay my training bag, my grips, my spare leotard, my water bottle, and a silver insulated case I had never seen before. Celia whispered, What is that? Lena said nothing. The technician stopped. Tomas pulled on gloves. The case bore a pharmacy label. Athlete 8. No name. Only the number. He opened it. Inside were 6 pre-filled syringes, 2 vials, and a digital dosing pen. Celia stepped back. Every athlete in the room stared at me. The first life accusation returned instantly. Mara's locker. Mara's drugs. The old story wanted to rebuild itself. I spoke before anyone else. That case is not mine. Lena said, Of course you would say that. Her calm voice had returned. She had lost access, but not the narrative. Tomas checked the locker seal log. The mechanical counter displayed 2 events. 541, athlete key. 554, master override attempt. I arrived at 541 and sealed the locker. No entry occurred between. If the case was inside, it had been planted before I arrived. But my athlete key was unique. Someone had opened the locker before the seal activated. The question was who? Tomas inspected the silver case. A fingerprint smudged the handle. Not mine. Not yet identified. The dosing pen screen lit when touched. It displayed Cycle 8, Final Microdose 6:30. Target Event, Trial Floor. Celia's face lost color. Her scheduled warm-up began at 6:30. Athlete 8 did not mean Locker 8. It meant Trial Ranking 8. Celia was Athlete 8 on the national shortlist. The drugs were for her. Lena's hand moved toward the case. Tomas blocked her. No one touches it. Celia stared at her mother. You said my supplements were illegal. No one breathed. Lena's voice cracked. They are. Tomas looked at the vials. They are unlabeled injectables stored in another athlete's sealed locker. Celia's eyes filled. You've been giving me these? Lena did not answer. That silence carried more than denial. Celia turned toward the mirror as though the reflection might belong to someone else. The changing room speakers announced first warm-up call. No one moved. The silver case had transformed the trial before it began. The National Anti-Doping Officer was summoned. Her name was Dr. Anika Shah. She tested the vial surface with a portable analyzer. Erythropoietin derivative. Stimulant compound. Masking agent. 3 banned substances. Celia sat on the bench. Her hands shook. How long? Lena said, Do not speak without counsel. Celia looked up. Not daughter to mother. Athlete to controller. How long? Lena's jaw tightened. Your medical program began after the Junior Nationals.
2 years.
No answer. Celia started crying. Not elegantly. Not quietly. The room's entire hierarchy broke with her. For years, everyone assumed Celia received advantages because she wanted them. Now we saw a different possibility. Her body had become the program. Lena had planned to move the silver case into my locker permanently, let me take the blame if testing detected abnormalities, and maintain Celia's eligibility by claiming contamination from shared facilities. The exact plan was not yet proven.
But the pieces existed.
Wrong locker assignment. Master key. Case labeled Athlete 8. Dosing schedule matching Celia. My previous records clean. Celia's mother controlling both program and access. The trials were suspended. That saved more than me. Anti-doping officers collected samples from every athlete. 3 returned suspicious markers. Celia. A senior gymnast named Inez. A reserve named Brooke. All trained under Lena's private recovery group. The academy called it possible supplement contamination. Dr. Shah called it a coordinated doping pattern. The center entered lockdown. No one left without interview. My key remained with me. The lock and master key entered evidence. Locker number 8 stood open without a door. I stared at it while athletes were escorted away. In the first life, the open locker proved guilt. In the second, the open locker showed sequence. Who forced access? When the seal activated. What was already inside? The same object. Different record. That should have ended Lena's power. It did not. By afternoon, the academy released a statement. Unauthorized medical materials were discovered in a locker assigned to athlete Mara Vale. Program Director Lena Arkwright cooperated fully with security after identifying the issue.
Identifying.
Not causing. The statement omitted her trapped master key. Omitted Celia's dosing schedule. Omitted the reassignment conflict. My name led the paragraph. The old machine had found a new route. I forwarded my photographs, Tomas's incident receipt, and the athlete portal assignment to a private folder. Then I sent copies to Dr. Shah. Evidence outside the academy. No single stack. Lena's lawyer contacted me. He requested a confidential resolution meeting. I refused. The next message offered reinstatement protection if I signed a statement saying Locker 8 had been shared informally with Celia. Shared. One word would dissolve the access conflict. If the locker was shared, the case could belong to either of us. I saved the message.
Sent it to Dr. Shah.
The lawyer withdrew the offer. By evening, social media had chosen sides. Mara planted drugs to eliminate Celia. Celia's mother doped her own daughter. The academy framed a scholarship athlete. Anti-doping officers hate successful women. Every version raced ahead of evidence. My first life taught me the danger of silence. My second taught me the danger of premature certainty. I posted one statement. Locker 8 was assigned to me in the athlete portal. Lena Arkwright attempted to override my active seal with a master key. The lock recorded the event and trapped the key. A medical case labeled Athlete 8 was found inside. I have provided records to investigators. I will not speculate beyond that.
No emotion.
No accusation beyond proof. People called it cold.
Good.
Temperature did not alter sequence. The next morning, Tomas called. Someone tried to remove Locker 8 from evidence storage.
Who?
Unknown badge. Was it removed?
No.
The doorless locker was too large for the corridor. The person abandoned it after triggering a wait alarm. Security footage showed a hooded figure. No face. But one detail appeared. A rigid walking boot on the left foot. Celia had injured her left ankle 6 weeks earlier. She wore a boot outside training. Online rumors exploded when footage leaked. Celia tried to steal the locker. Celia planted everything. Celia was not the only person with a boot. I remembered Lena arriving at Junior Nationals years earlier with a left foot stress fracture. Old injury. She sometimes wore a medical brace hidden beneath trousers. Again, pattern. Not proof. Tomas analyzed gait. The figure moved with limited ankle flexion but adult stride length. Likely Lena. Still not enough. Then the lock technician found a fiber caught inside the trapped master key. Dark blue wool. Lena's coaching jacket. The fiber only proved she used the key, which everyone already knew. Noor Patel, an athlete journalist, not the Noor from any previous story, contacted me through an encrypted account. She worked for Fair Play Review, an independent sports investigation outlet. She asked one question. Why Locker 8? Corner position. Anything behind it? A wall. Old wall or renovated wall? I did not know. She sent architectural plans. Locker 8 backed onto the former sports medicine storage room. A sealed access hatch once connected the locker cavity to the room behind. Renovations covered the hatch on the locker side, but not fully. Someone inside sports medicine could place items into number 8 without opening its front door. That explained everything. The silver case entered before I sealed the locker. No athlete key needed. The person accessed the wall cavity. Who controlled sports medicine? Dr. Felix Rowan, Calder Peak's chief physician. He supervised Lena's recovery group. In my first life, he testified that my blood work showed stimulant misuse. The same man who could manufacture the result. Dr. Shah obtained a warrant. Behind Locker 8, investigators found a narrow panel with fresh tool marks. Inside the sports medicine room, a cabinet concealed the opening. Fibers from the silver case matched the cavity. The planting route existed. Locker 8 had been chosen because it was the only locker connected to a hidden medical hatch. My spot was not random. It was infrastructure. Why had I been assigned it for 3 years? My father once worked maintenance at Calder Peak. After he died, the academy gave me a scholarship and Locker 8 as a gesture. I thought it was kindness. Lena and Rowan knew the old hatch existed. They placed me there because a scholarship athlete with limited family power made a useful future scapegoat. The plan began years before the drugs appeared. Or perhaps they discovered the opportunity later. Either way, my position made me convenient. Dr. Rowan disappeared before arrest. His office computer was wiped. His car remained underground. A refrigerated transport case was missing. The same pattern as every institution protecting a hidden program. Evidence moved. Records vanished. The public narrative blamed the visible athlete. Dr. Shah froze all Calder Peak competition licenses. Sponsors panicked. Parents threatened lawsuits. The academy board suspended Lena. Celia withdrew from trials. She did not speak publicly. For 3 days, I thought she was protecting her mother. Then she appeared at my apartment.
No cameras.
No lawyer. Her face looked smaller without competition makeup. I need help, she said. I did not let her inside. Call your solicitor. My solicitor works for Mom. Then find another. She has my medical records. Dr. Shah can subpoena them.
No.
Celia looked over her shoulder. She has the private ones. What private ones? Pregnancy tests, bone scans, heart episodes. My body went cold. Pregnancy. False positives from hormone cycles. She said they were side effects. Lena had manipulated her daughter's endocrine system for years. Celia continued. I tried to stop last season. What happened? Mom said withdrawal would trigger abnormalities and make me look guilty. The program trapped athletes through the evidence it created. Continue doping to hide prior doping. Obey to avoid exposure. Celia handed me a small memory card. I copied the recovery tablet. Why give it to me? Because everyone thinks I'm either victim or cheat. You may be both. Her eyes filled. I know. That answer made me believe she was ready to tell the truth. I still did not take the card directly. We met Dr. Shah at a police station. Chain of custody. Witnesses. No private evidence exchange. The card contained dosing schedules for 29 athletes across 8 years. Some knew. Some were told they received vitamins. Some resisted. Those athletes developed discipline problems, weight instability, or mental health concerns in official files. Their careers ended. The program used medicine to control selection. Athletes who obeyed received performance support. Athletes who questioned became unreliable. The same behavioral hierarchy as other institutions, but written into bodies. Locker 8 was the disposal point. Whenever supplies, syringes, or documents needed to disappear, the hatch placed them into a locker assigned to someone expendable. Before me, Locker 8 belonged to a gymnast named Sasha Bell. She was expelled for stealing prescription medication. She died from an overdose 2 years later. I searched her case. The drugs found in her locker matched compounds in Celia's recovery files. Sasha had been the first scapegoat. I was the second. The number mattered because the infrastructure remained, not because 8 held mystical meaning. Systems reuse convenient routes. Dr. Shah reopened Sasha's case. Her mother, Elena Bell, had spent years insisting her daughter did not steal. No one listened. The academy sent flowers after Sasha died. Elena kept the card. Inside, Lena had written, "We remember her talent." No mention of what destroyed it. Elena joined the investigation. She brought Sasha's old training diary. One entry read, "Locker wall clicks at night." Another, "Coach says give up my spot after nationals." The same phrase.
Give up my spot.
The program had used the same script before. That repetition strengthened the case. Celia testified before a closed anti-doping panel. Her mother's lawyers attacked her credibility. She benefited from medals, accepted injections, lied on medical declarations. All true. Celia said, "I was harmed. I also harmed others by staying silent." Both belong in the record. The panel did not absolve her. It reduced sanctions based on coercion and cooperation. She lost titles earned during confirmed doping periods. Some fans called it cruel. Others said she should be banned for life. The decision tried to separate benefit, knowledge, age, and control. No simple category fit. Celia returned medals. One by one. Television cameras captured the ceremony. I refused to attend. Public humiliation was not justice. Accurate records mattered. Medal tables changed. Athletes who placed behind her received delayed recognition. One, Brooke Evans, accepted a national title 6 years late. She said, "I wanted to win in the arena, not in a hearing." Correction did not recreate the moment. Still, the record changed. Late truth remained different from no truth. Lena was arrested after trying to cross the border. Her luggage contained cash, medical drives, and the other half of Locker 8's hidden hatch mechanism. Dr. Rowan was captured at a private clinic overseas. The doping network extended to professional teams, dance academies, and military fitness programs. Calder Peak was one testing ground. The criminal case became national. Lena pleaded not guilty. She claimed she used experimental medicine to protect athletes from unsafe training loads. She called conventional anti-doping policy sexist because it ignored female hormonal needs. Some of her criticism was valid. Sports medicine often failed women. That did not justify secret drugs, coercion, or framing. A true criticism could support a criminal method. We had to separate them. The defense wanted any admission of systemic sexism to weaken the case. Dr. Shah answered clearly. Poor treatment standards do not authorize non-consensual doping. They make ethical research more necessary, not less. The statement mattered. Otherwise, institutions could use real injustice as a shield for new injustice. At trial, prosecutors displayed Locker 8, the actual metal unit.
Door attached.
Red override flag preserved. Master key still jammed inside the lock. The jury saw the mechanism. Lena's lawyer said the jam proved only mechanical wear. The technician agreed. Then explained the sequence. Athlete seal active. Master key forced. Override captured. Key trapped. The lock did not know guilt. It recorded access. That distinction became a theme. Celia's tears did not prove coercion. The schedules did. My fear did not prove framing. The hatch did. Lena's cracked voice did not prove intent. Her messages, key, fibers, and files did. Emotion pointed. Evidence carried. Lena was convicted of conspiracy, administering banned and controlled substances without informed consent, evidence tampering, child endangerment, fraud, and obstruction. Dr. Rowan received a longer medical ban and prison sentence. Board members who ignored warnings faced separate charges. The academy entered receivership. Locker 8 became famous. Too famous. People sold replica red flags. Fans posed beside gym lockers holding broken keys. The story turned into aesthetic revenge. I hated it. Sasha's mother hated it more. My daughter died, Elena said. They made merchandise. We pushed for licensing restrictions on evidence images. Not censorship. Control over commercial use. The museum could display. Schools could teach. Companies could not sell lock-jammed shirts without contributing to survivor funds. The law remained imperfect. Public records are difficult to own. Still, sponsors withdrew from exploitative products. The trend faded. The Calder Peak site reopened under public governance. The changing room was rebuilt. Locker 8 did not return to use. At first, the board wanted to preserve it in place. Athletes objected. They did not want to dress beside a crime exhibit. The locker entered a sports integrity museum instead. The wall hatch was sealed transparently. Visitors could see the route from medical room to locker cavity. The display title read, "Who controlled the space behind the door?" That question mattered more than the jam. Athletes often controlled the visible locker. Institutions controlled schedules, medicine, records, access, and careers behind it. Ownership was partial. The reforms created independent medical custody. Coaches could not manage athlete treatment. Doctors reported outside performance chains. Athletes received full records. Second opinions protected. Refusing treatment could not affect selection without independent safety review. Medication storage used transparent chain of custody. No athlete locker could hold team medical supplies. Simple. Obvious.
Late.
I returned to competition after 1 year. Not elite gymnastics. My body still remembered training, but the scandal changed everything.
Chose trampoline.
Different discipline. Different center. People called it running away. It felt like choosing. The first day in the new gym, the manager assigned locker 8. I laughed so hard she looked worried. Can I have another? Of course.
Non explanation.
None needed.
Chose le cœur 21.
The lock worked. Nothing hidden behind it. At my first competition, I placed 4th. No medal.
No scandal.
I celebrated. A result earned in the arena. Not corrected later. Ordinary disappointment felt luxurious. Celia never returned to elite sport. She studied sports medicine ethics. People accused her of monetizing harm. Maybe partly. She also understood the system from inside. She created a program helping athletes access independent doctors. We worked together cautiously. Not friends at first. The past sat between us. She had benefited while I was targeted. She had also been controlled. Both facts mattered. One afternoon, she apologized. Not generally. Specifically. I saw Mom change your locker assignment the night before trials. I stopped. You knew. I thought she wanted the corner for my ankle. You said nothing. Yes. What else? I saw the silver case once. When? 2 weeks earlier. Did you know what was inside?
No.
Did you ask?
No.
The apology did not remove consequence. It gave sequence. I said, "Thank you for telling me." She looked hurt. Not forgiven. Not condemned. Accurate. Trust grew slowly after that. Years later, we co-authored an athlete consent standard. Her name beside mine angered some survivors. Sasha's mother supported it. She knows how control sounds when it calls itself care, Elena said. The standard required athletes to receive medication information directly, not through coaches or parents. Young athletes could ask confidential questions.
No blank supplement declarations.
No pre-signed medical forms. No punitive response to refusal. A line from Celia became central. If an athlete cannot say no without risking selection, the treatment is not voluntary. The policy changed national programs. At 35, I joined the World Sport Integrity Council. My first major case involved weight cutting in combat sports. Coaches locked athletes' phones in gym lockers during dehydration sessions. They called it focus. One athlete collapsed and could not call for help. The locker was not evidence storage. It was communication control. We banned confiscation during medical risk periods. Athletes retained emergency access. Again, visible sports culture hid infrastructure. Who held the key? Who decided when a body belonged to performance? Locker 8 became a lens, not a template. Different sports. Same questions. At 40, I investigated a professional cycling team using recovery rooms, where athletes surrendered personal bags and medical devices. One diabetic rider's insulin was locked away during a test. She nearly died. The team claimed security protocol. We required personal medical access. No performance system could confiscate life, preserving care. The rider later told me, "I thought refusing made me selfish." That sentence followed every abuse.
Team needs.
Program needs. Selection needs. Your body later. We taught athletes a different order. Immediate health first. Evidence second. Performance third. No medal outranked survival. The council faced criticism. Fans wanted records. Sponsors wanted victories. Athletes themselves sometimes chose risk knowingly. Adults have autonomy. Where should regulation stop? We did not ban every dangerous choice. We required truthful information, independent medical advice, and no coercive retaliation. A boxer could choose a difficult cut. A doctor could still refuse unsafe participation. A federation could set limits. Autonomy was not isolation. Choice existed within systems. The hardest cases involved minors. Parents often approved aggressive training. Coaches called it family consent. Children feared disappointing everyone. We created private assent interviews. No parent or coach present. The athlete could decline. Some families withdrew from programs.
Good.
A child should not need to accuse a parent in order to stop a risky intervention. A neutral no was enough. At 50, I testified before an international court about state-sponsored doping. Governments argued athletes willingly participated. Documents showed signatures. Some athletes received injections without labels. Others knew but feared losing housing and income. Consent under national control became complex. We built categories. Unknowing administration. Coerced administration. Knowing participation under pressure.
Voluntary knowing participation.
Different sanctions. Different support. No single victim cheat binary. Celia's case had taught us. Systems prefer binaries because they simplify punishment. Truth often requires mixed responsibility. The court adopted a coercion framework. Some athletes regained eligibility. Others retained bans. Every decision remained contested. Fairness did not guarantee agreement. Locker 8 stayed in the museum. I visited once at 60. The red flag still protruded. The master key remained jammed. A group of young gymnasts listened to a guide. One asked, "Why didn't Lena just use another locker?" The guide said, "Because this one had a hidden hatch." Another asked, "Why did Mara keep it?" "Because it was hers." That answer was true but incomplete. I kept it because I remembered surrender. Because my body knew the cost before evidence did. Because a locker spot became the first place I practiced not moving for someone else's convenience. The guide recognized me. Students turned. A girl in a purple tracksuit asked, "Were you scared?" "Yes." "Did you know the drugs were inside?"
No.
"Then why say no?" Because her reason did not match her urgency. The girl frowned. "What does that mean?" She said the spot didn't matter, then acted as though opening it before trials mattered more than anything. Mismatch. Again. Narrative small.
Behavior urgent.
A place to look. The girl nodded slowly. The museum invited me to speak. I declined. The students had training. The guide had the evidence. The story no longer required my presence. That was success. The criminal trial was only one part of what Calder Peak uncovered. The first institutional audit focused on medication. The second focused on selection. For 8 years, Lena's program had linked medical compliance to opportunity through a scoring system hidden inside athlete files. Every gymnast had a visible performance profile.
Difficulty.
Execution.
Consistency.
Injury status. Behind it sat a private column called adaptability. Athletes believed adaptability measured how well they handled changes in training. It actually measured how readily they accepted medical instructions without question. A score of 5 meant immediate compliance. A score of 1 meant persistent verification seeking. My score was 1. Sasha's had been 1. Celia's began at 4 and rose to 5 after her first national title. The system rewarded silence, as if it were athletic discipline. Selection panels never saw medication details. They saw adaptability. A neutral word carrying hidden judgment. One coach wrote, "Mara creates unnecessary friction around recovery protocols." Another wrote, "Sasha externalizes concern and destabilizes group confidence." Neither note said we asked what was inside injections. They translated a safety question into a character defect. The audit found that athletes with lower adaptability scores received fewer international opportunities even when performance was stronger. The academy claimed coaches needed to assess team cohesion. That defense almost worked. Sport depended on trust. Travel. Shared routines.
Fast decisions.
But trust could not mean surrendering bodily autonomy. The inquiry separated observable team behavior from medical obedience. Arrives on time. Supports teammates. Follows published safety rules. Those could be assessed. Accepts unexplained treatment.
Does not seek second opinion.
Avoids complaint. Those could not. The adaptability column was deleted. I objected to deletion alone. Preserve the history. Athletes needed to know how it affected them. The academy produced individual notices. Your selection file contained an undisclosed adaptability score. This score may have influenced decisions. May have. The data showed it did. We demanded specific review. Trials. Scholarships. Team placements. Retirements. Every athlete could request reassessment of historical decisions. The process became enormous. Some careers could not be restored. Age limits had passed.
Bodies had changed.
Medals belonged to moments that no hearing could recreate. One athlete, Nia Foster, learned she missed the Olympic reserve list because she refused an injection after developing a rash. The official reason had been insufficient competitive maturity. She was now 31. No return possible. The Federation offered a written apology and financial compensation. Nia asked to address the board. You stole a future and returned a paragraph. No one answered. She accepted the compensation anyway. Some people online accused her of taking money, as though money transformed injustice into agreement. Compensation was not forgiveness. It was one form of consequence. We stopped requiring confidentiality in settlements. Athletes could accept support and still speak. That reform broke another method of silence. The third audit examined locker access. Every coach held a master key. Every physician held one. Security held two. Cleaning contractors could request temporary copies. No independent log existed except the mechanical anti-tamper seals athletes rarely activated. The academy had treated changing rooms as low-risk spaces. In reality, they contained medication, food, personal devices, menstrual products, legal documents, and bodies in vulnerable states. Athletes reported missing snacks, open bags, moved supplements, photographed diaries. Most complaints had been dismissed as forgetfulness or team pranks. Locker 8 was extreme only because the hidden hatch made access invisible. The culture around all lockers allowed intrusion. A retired gymnast named Poppy Reyes testified that a coach once searched her locker for contraceptive pills. The coach feared pregnancy rumors would affect sponsors. Poppy was 19. The search found nothing. The violation never entered a record. Another gymnast, Ana Silva, kept a diary inside her locker. Private doubts about retirement appeared in a coach's selection notes days later. She assumed a teammate read it. The master key logs did not exist.
No proof. No correction.
We redesigned access. Athlete-controlled compartments. Emergency access through dual witnesses. Automatic notice. No coaches holding medical or locker keys. Changing rooms treated as privacy zones.
No hidden cameras.
No management entry while athletes changed except immediate danger. Some coaches argued these rules weakened safeguarding. What if an athlete hides banned substances? One asked. Then use a documented anti-doping process, Dr. Shaw answered. Suspicion did not create unlimited search authority. Targeted inspections required independent officers and athlete representation. The first year, searches fell by 80%. Banned substance detection did not fall. Most prior searches had never been about doping. They had been about control. The fourth audit examined food. Celia's dosing program often used recovery drinks supplied after training. No label. No ingredient list. Athletes were praised for not being fussy. Those who brought personal food were called undisciplined. A nutritionist named Dr. Elise Hart had raised concerns. Lena removed her from the program for failure to understand elite culture. Elise kept sample sachets in a freezer at home. Testing found microdoses of masking compounds. She had preserved physical evidence for 3 years while doubting whether anyone would care. When the scandal broke, she delivered the freezer to investigators. Chain of custody was imperfect. The samples still supported timelines when compared with manufacturer records. Elise testified. Elite culture became a phrase meaning ordinary ethics did not apply. That sentence spread. Every abusive system seemed to own a phrase like that. High performance. National security. Medical necessity. Academic excellence. Emergency realism. A way to tell people the usual rules were too slow for important work. We began asking, which rule do you want suspended, and who bears the risk? If the answer remained vague, the exception stopped. Nutrition labels became mandatory. Athletes could photograph and retain packaging. Team products were independently batch tested. Personal alternatives allowed. No one could be punished for refusing an unlabeled drink. The first time an athlete declined, her coach rolled his eyes. She filed a report. The coach received training, not termination. The report remained. Small correction. Early. That was how culture changed. Not every mistake became crime. Every pattern became visible. The fifth audit exposed reproductive control. Celia's files contained hormone tests. So did dozens of others. The academy tracked menstrual cycles to adjust training, which could be medically useful. The data also influenced selection. Athletes with irregular cycles were marked unstable. Athletes using contraception were questioned. One coach suggested a gymnast delay pregnancy until after sponsorship renewal. No explicit threat. The power was obvious. Medical data had entered performance management. We created strict separation. Athletes chose whether to share cycle information. Doctors could recommend training adjustments without disclosing diagnoses. Coaches received functional guidance. Reduced impact today. No full-out landings. Not hormone levels. Not pregnancy tests. Privacy through minimum necessary information. Some athletes wanted coaches to know more. They could consent. The default changed from access to boundary. Celia became central to this reform because her records were the worst. She testified that Lena tracked her cycle from age 14. Her mother called it protection. Celia believed it was normal. During one panel, a commissioner asked why she never objected. Celia answered, "Children do not recognize boundaries, adults never show them." That sentence entered youth sport training. Teach boundaries before asking children to report violations. Otherwise, they lack language. The sixth audit involved pain. Lena's program classified pain complaints as either productive or avoidant. Productive athletes continued. Avoidant athletes lost difficulty opportunities. No category existed for accurate warning. Sasha's diary described ankle pain 6 weeks before her final competition. The medical file called it attention-seeking. Post-expulsion scans showed an untreated fracture. She used pain medication. Then stronger medication. The overdose that killed her became easier to trace. The academy did not cause every step. Its dismissal contributed. Elena Bell insisted the revised public record include this.
Not.
Sasha Bell later died from overdose. Instead, after dismissal following a framed medication allegation, Sasha Bell lived with an untreated ankle fracture and developed dependence on pain medication. Institutional actions were a contributing factor reviewed by the inquiry. Longer, harder, accurate. The academy wanted shorter wording. Elena refused. Records become moral when brevity hides sequence. The sports ministry created an independent pain report system. Athletes could request imaging without coach approval. Medical staff gained protection for precautionary holds. Training plans recorded when pain warnings were overridden and by whom. Overrides required reasons. The number fell immediately. Not because pain disappeared. Because signing responsibility changed behavior. The seventh audit asked why no one noticed Celia's physiological abnormalities during anti-doping tests. The answer was uncomfortable.
They did.
Her values fluctuated near thresholds. Never enough for formal violation. The athlete biological passport system flagged unusual patterns twice. Both reviews were closed after Lena submitted medical explanations signed by Dr. Rowan. The explanations used legitimate conditions. Iron deficiency. Altitude training. Menstrual variation. True possibilities used to hide false causes. The anti-doping agency trusted team doctors too heavily. Independent review now examined repeated borderline findings. Not automatic guilt. A conversation outside team control. Athletes received notice. Celia never knew she had been flagged. If she had, she might have questioned her injections earlier. Transparency became a safeguard. The agency worried notice would help intentional dopers adjust.
Possibly.
Secrecy had helped abusive programs continue. We balanced timing. Athletes learned after preliminary analysis, but before closure. Independent advisors explained results. No coach filtering. The system became more complex. Fairness often did. The eighth audit examined scholarship dependence. My Calder Peak Place included housing, education, meals, and medical care. If expelled, I lost everything at once. Lena knew. Sasha had the same arrangement. Celia's family had wealth and status, yet she depended emotionally and professionally on her mother. Different leverage. Same reduced freedom. The academy created transition guarantees. An athlete suspended during a dispute kept housing and education until independent review. Medical coverage continued.
No immediate.
This removed one weapon. Critics said accused dopers received benefits. Due process is most important before guilt is decided. After final intentional violations, sanctions could apply. Before then, survival did not depend on silence. The first athlete protected by the guarantee was a sprinter accused of tampering with a sample. She remained housed. Investigation proved a laboratory barcode error. Under the old system, she would have been expelled within days. She later won a national title. No one called the housing guarantee heroic.
It was.
Infrastructure can be courage designed in advance. The ninth audit reviewed media strategy. Calder Peak's first statement named me before establishing ownership of the drugs.
Why?
Communication staff received an instruction from the board chair. Anchor the incident to the physical location before speculation expands. Physical location meant my locker. My name became the anchor. Once public, every correction sounded like defense. The board knew this. Crisis communication had become preemptive blame. The ministry required institutions to avoid naming individuals before independent confirmation unless immediate safety demanded it. Statements had to distinguish.
Found in a locker assigned to.
Belonged to. Placed by. Used by. Those were different facts. Media outlets adopted similar guidance. Not perfectly. Headline speed remained powerful. I sued Calder Peak for the false initial statement. The Academy settled and published a correction with equal prominence. Not a hidden webpage. Same distribution list.
Same social accounts.
For 7 days. The correction read, medical materials found inside Locker 8 were not owned or placed by Mara Vale. Evidence established a concealed access route from the sports medicine room and an attempted unauthorized override by program director Lena Arkwright.
Clear.
Specific.
Late.
Still valuable. My search results changed. The accusation no longer appeared alone. Digital repair became part of compensation. People harmed by false institutional statements gained rights to correction campaigns, not only money. The 10th audit examined parents. Some knew more than they admitted. A few had accepted unlabeled recovery programs because their children improved. Others suspected doping but feared losing opportunities. One father anonymously reported Lena years earlier. The complaint returned to Dr. Rowan. He closed it. The father never followed up. He testified through tears. I thought I had done my duty by sending one email. The system had provided a reporting channel that looped back to the accused. A false exit. We required external destinations for allegations involving program leadership. Reporters received tracking numbers. Status updates. Appeal if closed. No complaint could disappear into one inbox. The system also warned against assuming every parent was protector. Some pressured children to continue treatment. Independent athlete advisors remained necessary. One gymnast asked to stop a supplement program. Her father insisted. The advisor supported her refusal. At 16, she gained authority over her own body against both coach and parent. Law varied. Policy could still set stronger ethical practice. The 11th audit uncovered research publications. Dr. Rowan had published papers on adaptive recovery in adolescent female athletes. Data came from Lena's program. No informed research consent. Athletes thought tests guided treatment. Their results became papers. Names removed. Exploitation remained. Journals retracted 6 studies. Citations persisted in later work. Bad data had entered sports medicine. Researchers conducted a citation audit.
Guidelines changed.
Retraction notices had to propagate into clinical summaries. Systematic reviews updated. One false program had shaped international training advice. Erasing a paper did not erase its influence. Scientific correction required tracing downstream use. Celia co-authored a commentary. She described reading a graph and realizing one data point represented her body at 15. No name. Still hers. I was anonymous to readers and completely identifiable to the people controlling me, she wrote. Anonymity protected institutions more than subjects when power remained local. Future research used independent data custodians. Athletes could see how samples were used. Withdrawal could remove future use, where feasible. No secret secondary analysis. The 12th audit examined awards. Calder Peak received safeguarding prizes during the years of abuse. The awarding bodies had evaluated policies, not outcomes. Beautiful documents. No athlete interviews outside staff presence. Awards created credibility Lena used against complaints. If our program were unsafe, would we have national recognition? The inquiry revoked the awards, then redesigned accreditation. Random athlete interviews. Complaint pattern review. Medical record sampling. Retaliation tracking. No reliance on policies alone. A policy can be excellent and unused. A locked door can display an emergency plan no one can reach. Measure practice. The first revised audit failed a famous academy with perfect paperwork. Athletes described punishment after reporting injuries. The academy lost accreditation until repair. Sponsors objected. The standard held. At the World Sport Integrity Council, I carried these lessons into other fields. One case involved a rowing club where seat assignments determined scholarships. A coach demanded access to athletes' private nutrition apps. Those who refused lost boat positions. No drugs.
No hidden hatch.
Still coercion. We separated performance measurement from unrelated personal data. Another involved dancers whose lockers were weighed to detect food hoarding. The company called it wellness. We banned it. A third involved wrestlers storing urine samples in lockers for hydration checks, without privacy. We required medical spaces and consent. Locker culture revealed what institutions believed athletes surrendered when entering sport. Privacy.
Food.
Medication. Communication. Identity. We returned each category deliberately. The work faced backlash. Some former athletes said harsh systems built resilience.
Perhaps for them.
Survival did not prove necessity. People often credit the obstacle because acknowledging unnecessary harm is painful. We did not ban demanding training. We banned concealed bodily control. Coaches could require effort, not secret injections.
Could set performance standards.
Not search diaries. Could recommend recovery. Not tie unexplained treatment to selection. Clear boundaries improved coaching. Good coaches welcomed them. Bad coaches called them bureaucracy. Celia and I spoke at a coaching conference once. The host wanted a reconciliation story. Mother's victim and scapegoat unite. I rejected the framing. Celia began. I received medals through a system that targeted Mara. I followed. Celia was controlled by the same system in a different role.
No hook.
No inspirational music. We discussed mechanisms. The audience was quieter than organizers wanted. Afterward, a young coach approached. My best athlete refuses iron injections.
Why?
Celia asked. She hates needles. Does she need injections?
I asked.
Her levels are low. Has she seen an independent doctor?
No.
Start there. The athlete later chose oral treatment. Performance improved more slowly.
No coercion.
The coach wrote to thank us. That small case mattered. No scandal required. The 13th audit, years later, focused on athlete data after retirement. Calder Peak retained health files indefinitely. Insurers requested access during litigation. Sponsors sought injury analytics. Retired athletes had no control. We created deletion and retention limits. Some medical records needed preservation. Performance analytics did not need immortality. Athletes could separate clinical history from commercial data. Celia deleted her daily weight records. Kept cardiac monitoring. Sasha's mother preserved everything because litigation remained. Different choices. Data, autonomy. At 70, I reviewed my own Calder Peak file. Thousands of pages. Adaptability score.
Weight. Pain.
Menstrual notes. Coach comments. One line from Lena read. Mara's attachment to Locker 8 reflects territorial rigidity. written a year before the scandal. She had already framed my relationship with the locker as pathology. Why had I resisted sharing then? Because belongings moved. Food disappeared. I sensed intrusion, without proof. My attachment was evidence of an unsafe environment. The system turned reaction into defect. I requested an annotation. Athlete later discovered concealed access route behind Locker 8 and repeated unauthorized entry by program staff. The note did not delete Lena's sentence. It contextualized it. Future researchers could see how institutions misread protective behavior. Annotation became another reform. People could not rewrite historical records freely. They could attach response. A record stopped being one authority's final voice. The museum eventually added a digital layer to Locker 8. Visitors could read the original Academy statement, my correction, the trial findings, Sasha's diary, and Celia's testimony. Contradictory documents. Sequence. The exhibit asked, which record appeared first? Which was most powerful? Which was most accurate? People often chose the first statement initially, then changed after seeing evidence. The lesson was not distrust first reports. It was keep updating. Truth can arrive later without becoming less true. I returned to the changing room once before demolition. Locker 8 remained doorless. The hidden hatch stood open behind it. Dust covered the bench.
No athletes. No cameras.
I placed my palm against the metal frame. In my first life, this place became the beginning of public shame. In my second, it became the first point where Lena's plan met resistance. But I did not thank the locker. It was steel. I thanked the version of myself who said no before she understood why. Then I noticed something scratched beneath the bottom hinge. Not my initials.
SP.
Sasha Bell. She had marked the same place.
MV.
Beneath S.
B.
2 athletes. Same locker. Same suspicion. Different timelines. I photographed the initials. Elena wept when she saw them. The museum preserved that section of metal. Not the entire frame. The small scratched panel entered the exhibit beside Sasha's diary. It proved she had occupied Locker 8 despite Academy records claiming otherwise. A tiny physical contradiction. Her name returned to the space. The official assignment sheet had erased her. The hinge remembered pressure from a sharp object. Again, material outlasting narrative. We amended the display title. Who controlled the space behind the door, and who was recorded as standing in front of it? Ownership. Presence. Access. All different. The 14th audit was never formally numbered. It was grief. How many athletes had internalized blame? How many bodies carried consequences after records changed? No policy could answer. The ministry funded long-term care, not 12 therapy sessions. Ongoing access. Some used it. Some refused. Sasha could not. Elena used survivor family support. Celia used trauma treatment privately. I attended for years. Public reform did not eliminate private symptoms. I still checked locker backs. Still smelled metal before opening doors. Still avoided silver-insulated cases. At a public pool, a lock jammed while I was changing. My heart raced so hard I sat on the floor. A staff member offered a master key. I almost shouted, then said, "Please open it with another person present." She called a colleague. They documented the access. My clothes were inside. Nothing else. The lock was corroded. We laughed afterward. Not because fear was silly. Because the procedure made an ordinary failure remain ordinary. That was healing designed into interaction. Years later, a hotel gym assigned me Locker 8. I kept it, not as a test, because it was available. The lock worked. I stored a towel and shoes. Completed my workout. Returned the key. No one asked for my spot. The number became ordinary again inside me before it did at Calder Peak. I did not notice until afterward. Recovery often arrives without ceremony. The 15th lesson came from Lena's appeal. She argued Celia's testimony was coerced by public pressure and fear of sanctions. Possible pressure existed. Celia also had records. The appeal court examined whether cooperation agreements made testimony unreliable. It decided incentives should be disclosed, not treated as automatic disqualification. Again, mixed motives. A person can seek reduced punishment and tell the truth. Evidence must corroborate. Celia's schedules matched pharmacy purchases. Her messages matched doses. Her hormone results matched compounds. The conviction stood. The judgment helped other cases where insiders cooperated. Perfect motives were not required. Specific verification was. Celia read the decision and said, "They believe the files more than me." Files cannot explain coercion alone. They needed both. Yes. That mattered. Systems sometimes overcorrect from believing authority to believing data absolutely. Records can be falsified. People provide context. Trust emerges from comparison. The 16th lesson came from a young gymnast named June Park. She activated a locker anti-tamper seal after reading my story. Her coach became offended. "Do you think I steal?" June answered, "It's standard procedure." The coach continued treating the seal as personal accusation. June reported retaliation. The academy trained staff. Security measures should not depend on suspicion. Seatbelts do not accuse drivers. Seals do not accuse coaches. Normalizing protection reduces relational conflict. Every athlete began using seals. Once universal, no one could identify who held sensitive evidence. Collective practice protected individuals. This was better than brave isolation. At Calder Peak, I alone activated the seal that morning. That made me visible. In the new system, everyone did. Safety became routine. The 17th lesson involved keys. Physical keys could be copied. Digital locks created logs but raised surveillance. Biometric locks linked bodies to access but failed with injuries and disability. We tested options with athletes. They chose combination systems. Personal code. Physical backup held independently. Local log visible to athlete.
No fingerprint requirement. No central behavioral analytics.
The final design was not technologically impressive. It fit the users. One manufacturer proposed emotion detection to identify coerced access. I refused. No locker needed to judge a face. The user could activate a distress code. A deliberate signal. Not inferred fear. We had learned enough from systems assigning meaning to bodies. The 18th lesson came from sponsors. Brands had funded Lena's program because Celia's success sold products. After conviction, sponsors claimed ignorance. Contracts contained performance bonuses, but no medical oversight. Profit flowed toward risk without responsibility. We required sponsored due diligence. Companies funding youth programs had to review safeguarding and medicine independently. If they ignored warning patterns, liability followed. Sponsors complained they were not doctors. They were not. They could fund independent doctors. Money creates leverage. It also creates duty. One brand withdrew from youth sport entirely. Another built a strong oversight fund. Not every regulation preserved every partnership. Safety sometimes reduced money. We learned to say that honestly. The 19th lesson arrived from fans. Celia received threats after returning medals. Some called her fraud. Others called her pure victim and attacked anyone mentioning benefit. Both erase complexity. She published a statement. I was a child when the program began, and an adult when I continued hiding it. I need the record to show both. That sentence helped many survivors of coercive systems. Age changes. Knowledge changes. Responsibility changes over time. A person is not frozen at the point harm began. Sanctions and support should reflect stages. The anti-doping code added developmental coercion review. When did the athlete understand? What options existed? What benefit continued? What threats remained? Hard questions. Better than one label. The 20th lesson was the most personal. For years, I believed rebirth happened so I could clear my name. Then I met Sasha's mother. Then I saw Daniel. No, that belonged to another story. I learned not to force every life into the same architecture. This story belonged to bodies. To girls whose talent made adults feel entitled. My second chance did clear my name. It also exposed a route used before me. The hidden hatch. The diaries. The treatment files. If the lock had not jammed, I might have saved only myself by keeping the key. The jam created witnesses. The witnesses opened the wall. Rebirth was not reward. It was access to one change decision. Everything after depended on what we did with the opening. The final national inquiry did not end with Lena's conviction. It moved into community gyms. Elite programs had drawn attention because medals made abuse visible. Ordinary fitness centers received less scrutiny. My first life ended in one. A 24-hour gym. No team doctor.
No federation.
No anti-doping officer. Only vending machines, unstaffed hours, and members trusting bottles left beside benches. I remembered the floor. Black rubber flecked with gray. A television showing Celia's medal ceremony. My water bottle tasting unusually bitter. No one nearby until my heart began racing. The police in that timeline called it self-administered stimulant misuse. The accusation from Calder Peak followed me into death. Because I had already been labeled a doper, poison looked like choice. In this life, investigators reviewed the gym's archived membership logs after I described the memory. The facilities still existed. The same camera system. The same bottle filling station. No crime had occurred there now. Still, Detective Ortiz found something useful. Lena held a national chain membership under an alias. Her access card entered that exact gym twice during the month before the original trial date. The second visit matched the night I died in the first life. Impossible as present evidence. The access pattern showed preparation. She knew where I trained after expulsion. She had selected a location with weak staffing and poor bottle surveillance. No present charge could arise for a murder that had not happened. But the gym case revealed a safety gap. Members left drinks unattended. Lockers used shared reset codes. Cameras excluded hydration areas for privacy. A person could tamper without appearing close to the victim. The fitness industry dismissed the risk as rare. Rare events can still deserve low-cost safeguards. Bottle lockers.
Tamper evident refill cups.
Visible drink storage shelves. Staffed emergency response during overnight hours. No cameras inside private spaces, but better access records at entrances. The chain adopted these changes after public pressure. 1 year later, a member noticed her bottle seal broken. Staff preserved it. Testing found a dangerous sedative. Police identified a former partner stalking her. The protocol interrupted another story before collapse. She wrote to me, "I'm alive because I treated a small seal as evidence." I kept the letter, not because the safeguard came from my first death, because a stranger received a future I did not. That was as close as timelines could come to speaking. The council then examined gym locker reset systems. Many facilities used a master code printed inside staff manuals. Employees shared it. Contract cleaners knew it. Members assumed a chosen combination protected belongings. It protected only against other members. Institutions could still enter invisibly. We required access logs and post-entry notice. Not every master opening was suspicious. Forgotten codes. Medical emergencies. Abandoned property. The problem was unrecorded access. Locker number 8 had taught me that visible ownership means little when hidden entry leaves no trace. A log does not prevent every abuse. It changes what must be explained. A gym chain objected that logs cost too much. We compared the cost with theft claims, police time, and member harm. Logging was cheaper. What they resisted was accountability, not expense. A pilot system sent members a simple message. Your locker was opened by staff at 9:14 p.m. reason. Closing inspection after alarm. Most messages required no response. One exposed a manager searching bags for union flyers.
He was dismissed.
Another showed a cleaner opened a locker after water leaked underneath. Legitimate. Transparency protected both. The system spread. The locker story moved beyond sport. Schools. Workplaces. Hospitals. Shelters. Any place assigning temporary private space. We drafted principles. The user should know who else can enter. Access should have a defined reason. Forced opening should create a record. Personal medicine should remain reachable. Evidence should not be stored where one authority controls every key. Privacy should not conceal immediate danger. Again, no perfect answer. A women's shelter raised concerns. Notifying a resident that staff opened a locker could reveal internal security practices if an abusive partner gained her phone. We adapted. Notice through secure channels. User-chosen timing. Emergency confidentiality. Context-changed design. One rule could not serve every vulnerable space. At the World Sport Integrity Council, the most controversial proposal involved locker room cameras. Some parents wanted cameras to prevent abuse. Athletes opposed recording in changing areas. Both concerns were valid. We rejected cameras inside. Instead, we monitored entrances, required 2 adult access for staff, created private reporting, and used tamper logs on equipment storage. Safety, without turning bodies into surveillance footage. Lena's program had already observed athletes too much. The answer could not be total observation by someone else. A young safeguarding officer asked, "What if something happens where no camera sees?" Then build systems where a person's account begins investigation rather than ends it. Evidence includes testimony, not blind belief, not automatic doubt. Preserve nearby records. Interview promptly. Protect from retaliation. The absence of video should not become permission for inaction. My first life had no surviving locker log. The Academy treated absence as proof its account was correct. We reversed that habit. Missing records after dispute triggered explanation. Who controlled them? When did they disappear? What backup should exist? Absence became an event. Celia's medical work eventually focused on athlete withdrawal, not from drugs, from sport itself. Elite athletes often wanted to stop but lacked identity, education, housing, or money outside the program. Continuing looked like consent. She created exit scholarships. An athlete could leave high-performance training and retain educational support for a year. Critics said this encouraged quitting. It encouraged real choice. A program confident in its value should not need the threat of collapse to retain members. The first recipient was a 14-year-old gymnast named Nessa. No abuse. No drugs. She simply hated gymnastics after 10 years. Her parents believed she would regret leaving. The exit scholarship allowed school transfer and counseling. Nessa became a marine biologist. Years later, she said, "Nothing terrible happened. I just didn't want the life everyone chose when I was 4. That sentence belonged beside every dramatic testimony. Consent can end without wrongdoing. No one must prove harm to leave. The principle entered youth sport codes. Athletes could withdraw.
No blacklisting.
No repayment of ordinary scholarship costs. No negative references for leaving. Programs had to separate disappointment from retaliation. Coaches struggled. Talent leaving felt like waste. A person is not a resource investment. That simple truth remained difficult in high-performance systems. Celia and I disagreed about one part of the code. She wanted parents barred from managing minor athletes' medical consent whenever they also acted as coaches. I supported strong safeguards but not an automatic ban in every small community program. She argued her mother's dual role made refusal impossible. True. I argued independent medical oversight could address power without excluding supportive parents. Also true. We compromised. Parents could coach. They could not be sole medical decision-makers in high-risk programs. Independent clinician. Private athlete consultation. External review for disputed treatment. Dual roles disclosed. No one person controlling selection, medicine, and consent. The Lena rule, journalists called it. Celia asked them not to. The final regulation used a dull technical title. Conflict Separation Standard 8. The number was accidental. We both laughed when it appeared. Locker 8 followed us, without being invited. At 65, I received an invitation to Calder Peak's anniversary gala. The new center wanted to honor reform leaders. I declined the award. Accepted a tour. The changing rooms smelled like soap and chalk. Locker doors were pale, wood rather than metal. Each athlete had a private compartment and a separate transparent equipment cage. No hidden wall cavities. Medical storage existed across the corridor under independent control. A young gymnast named Ava showed me her access app.
See?
My coach can't open this. What if you forget the code? Security opens it with me there. What if there's an emergency? 2 people open it, and I get a notice. She recited the procedure casually. No fear.
No mi sale allí.
At the end of the row stood locker 8.
New.
Ordinary. Ava opened it. Inside were pink grips, a hoodie, a maths textbook, and 3 packets of crackers.
Mine, she said.
The word made my throat tighten. Not because the number belonged to her permanently. Because she understood the space as hers within clear limits. Do you like this spot? I asked. It's near the bathroom.
No destiny. No prestige. No hidden hatch.
Convenience. The exact harmless reason Lena pretended to have. I smiled. Good spot. During the tour, the director asked me to demonstrate the modern override system. I refused. Why? Use a training unit. The real locker contained a child's belongings. Historical symbolism did not create access. The director apologized. We tested a vacant demonstration locker instead. Security initiated an override. The system displayed the reason. 2 witnesses confirmed. The door opened. A notification went to the assigned test account.
No jam. No confrontation.
Accountable access did not need failure to expose itself. That was the improvement. At the gala, Celia received the Medical Ethics Award. She almost refused because of her medals. Sasha's mother encouraged her to accept. An award for what you do now is not the same as keeping one from what happened then. Celia accepted. Her speech lasted 4 minutes.
She said,
I once believed care meant letting the person closest to me decide what my body needed. Later, I believed autonomy meant never trusting anyone again. Neither is health. Health is informed partnership with a real exit.
No tears. No dramatique palegi.
A lesson earned at terrible cost. Afterward, we sat at a back table eating cake. Do you ever miss competing? I asked. Every day. Do you regret leaving? Also, every day. People wanted one clean feeling. Lives rarely gave it. She looked at me. Do you regret keeping the locker?
No.
Do you regret what happened after? Parts. Which parts? The way the story swallowed everyone. She nodded. Locker 8 had made us symbols. Doper. Victim. Scapegoat. Whistleblower. Daughter. Survivor. The labels helped public understanding. They also narrowed. We had lived enough years to become inconveniently larger than them. That was freedom too. The museum later offered to return the locker after its exhibit closed. The metal had begun corroding. Conservation would cost more than storage value. Elena wanted the scratched hinge panel preserved. Celia wanted the dosing case preserved. I wanted the lock mechanism preserved. No one wanted the full locker. We agreed to dismantle it under documentation. The museum filmed every step. Door removed. Shelves separated. Hidden hatch alignment photographed. Lock extracted with the master key still jammed. Scratched initials cut from the hinge panel. The remaining steel recycled. Some people called destruction disrespectful. The object had completed its evidentiary purpose. Preservation does not require keeping every kilogram. The recycled metal became part of public bicycle racks outside the new Sports Integrity Center. No plaque identified which section came from Locker 8. I liked that. Material once used to frame athletes now held ordinary bicycles while people came and went freely. The lock entered the archive. The jammed master key remained. Engineers examined why it trapped. The lock contained a spring-loaded witness pin. Forced rotation under an active seal pushed the pin into the key groove. The harder Lena turned, the more tightly it held. A security design based on escalation. Force created its own restraint. The manufacturer had discontinued the mechanism because users complained keys became stuck during legitimate mistakes. We improved the design. Modern locks recorded, without trapping. Mechanical restraint had saved evidence once. It could also delay emergency access. No feature remained sacred because it helped me. Context. Trade-offs. Revision. The archive label explained both. This jam preserved an unauthorized override event. Later systems retained the evidentiary function without physically trapping keys. Progress did not mean copying the miracle. It meant understanding which part mattered. The record. The witness. The delay. Not the jam itself. My final professional case concerned an AI selection tool used in youth sport. The model analyzed training attendance, medical compliance, coach feedback, and social media behavior. It ranked athletes for scholarships. One variable carried enormous weight: responsiveness. Athletes who quickly followed program recommendations scored higher. The old adaptability column had returned as an algorithm. No coach consciously punished questions. Historical data taught the model that compliant athletes received opportunities. Past bias became automated future. We removed medical compliance, separated safety behavior from obedience, allowed athletes to see and challenge profiles. The model's predictions became less accurate against historical selection, more fair against actual performance. The vendor complained, "Accuracy to a biased past is not the same as validity." That sentence became my final technical report. The system was redesigned. A young athlete challenged a note calling her unresponsive. She had missed messages because her family shared one phone. Context corrected the score. Without review, poverty would have looked like attitude. The locker case began with physical access. It ended in data access. Who could see the profile? Who could correct it? Who controlled the space behind the visible number? Same question. New wall. Near the end of my life, I lived in a small apartment with a gym downstairs. The changing room had digital lockers. One morning, I chose number 8 without thinking. After exercise, the lock would not open. My pulse jumped. I entered the code again. Red light. A staff member approached. "Would you like me to override it?" The old scene returned. Lena's hand. The black master key. "Give up your spot." I breathed. What will the override record? She showed me the screen. Staff name.
Time.
Reason. My confirmation. Can another person witness? Of course. A second employee came. I confirmed the locker number. They opened it. Inside were my code and a bottle of water. The code had failed because I entered one digit incorrectly.
No planting. No hidden hatch. No conspiracy.
The staff member apologized. I said, "The system worked." She looked confused. "It locked you out." It also showed who opened it and why. A safe system does not eliminate all inconvenience. It makes power visible. I took my belongings. Closed locker 8. Left it for the next person. That was the last locker I ever used. Not cursed. Not sacred. A temporary space with accountable access. The number followed me to an ordinary ending. Exactly where I wanted it. One final record remained inside the archived lock. When conservators removed the trapped master key, they found a thin curl of paper compressed beside the witness pin. It came from Lena's altered locker roster. The fragment contained only 2 printed characters.
Manhwa.
My initials. She had carried the false assignment sheet while forcing the lock, and a torn edge entered the keyway. The lock preserved more than access. It preserved the name she intended to move. The museum displayed the fragment beneath magnification with one sentence. The official record said she had another locker. The material caught inside the lock said whose place was being taken. I did not call it fate. Paper tears. Metal traps debris. Investigators interpret. Still, the fragment completed the opening moment. My name had been removed from the roster and caught inside the mechanism at the exact place the lie was meant to replace me. The visible page changed. The physical sequence remained. Near the end of my life, I received Locker 8's original athlete key from the court archive. Not the master key.
Mine.
The brass had dulled. My initials remained scratched near the top.
Manhwa.
I held it for a long time, then gave it to Sasha's mother. Why? She asked. Because your daughter had the locker before me. Elena closed her hand around it. She never had this key.
No.
They replaced hers after expulsion. Then keep this as the key she should have been allowed to retain. Elena placed it beside Sasha's diary. The diary entry said the wall clicked at night. The key said the visible lock was not the only access. Together, they told the full mechanism. Not mine alone. The final reform at Calder Peak removed numbered prestige rows. Athletes chose available lockers daily. Medical distance accommodations were handled openly. No permanent spot became status. Some gymnasts missed the tradition. Others enjoyed freedom. Locker 8's number no longer existed in the rebuilt room. The row went from 7 to 9 on purpose at first. I objected. Skipping the number makes it mythical. They renumbered everything. 1 through 40. A new Locker 8 appeared. Ordinary.
No hatch. No exhibit.
Used by whoever arrived first. The first athlete assigned it was a 12-year-old beginner. She stored a pink towel, fruit snacks, and a paperback fantasy novel. Nothing else. A photograph reached me. I smiled. The number did not need to remain cursed.
Infrastructure changed.
Meaning could change too. The first time I gave up my spot, the drugs appeared. The records changed. My body became the final target. The second time, I kept gym locker number 8. She told me to give up my spot. Her lock jammed. The case surfaced before the trial floor. Celia learned what entered her body. Sasha's name was corrected. The team survived without a manufactured scandal. But the ending was not that one athlete kept what belonged to her. The ending was that no coach could again control a body, a record, and the place where evidence appeared. Medical care separated from selection. Locker access created witnesses. Athletes received their files. Refusal stopped being disloyalty. And when authority pushed a key into a lock already telling the truth, the mechanism finally held long enough for everyone else to see whose hand was turning it.